The council chamber stretched across 300 meters of polished crystal floor. Representatives from 247 species sat in their designated sections, their forms ranging from gaseous clouds contained in force fields to massive creatures that required reinforced platforms. At the far end of the room, in a section much smaller than the others, sat the human delegation. 15 men and women in simple gray uniforms. They looked tiny compared to the others. Ambassador Minho Park stood from his seat. He was 53 years old, with gray streaks in his black hair. He had spent the last 20 years of his life in this chamber, trying to get the council to listen. Today would be his final attempt. He walked to the center speaking platform, his footsteps echoing in the vast space. Behind him, Captain Jiho Kim watched carefully. Jiho commanded the human delegation ship, and he had received strange orders from Earth 3 days ago. Orders that made him nervous. Min reached the platform and activated the holographic display. Images appeared in the air above him. Charts and numbers and pictures of human workers in dangerous places across the galaxy. He began to speak in the common galactic language that all species used for communication. Esteemed council members, I present humanity's petition for full voting rights. We have served the council faithfully for 83 years. In that time, humans have operated mining facilities in radiation zones where no other species could survive. We have navigated unstable wormholes that destroy most ships. We have built stations in war zones and disease planets. We have lost 140,000 people doing the work others refuse to do. The display showed images of human engineers, pairing quantum drives in conditions that would kill most species within minutes. It showed human doctors treating alien plagues in quarantine zones. It showed human pilots flying through spatial anomalies that made experienced alien navigators refuse their duties. We have asked for nothing but fair treatment, Minho continued. His voice was calm but firm. We have followed every rule. We have exceeded every expectation. We request what we have earned. A seat with voting power. The right to help decide the future we work so hard to build. Dr. Hannah Lee sat in the human section watching the other delegates. She was a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life forms. She had worked with dozens of species over her career. She knew how they thought. And right now, as she watched their faces and sensory organs and communication displays, she saw the same thing she always saw. Dismissal they were not taking. Minho seriously. Arbiter Veltharn rose from the central command throne. The insectoid leader was 4 meters tall, with a crystalline exoskeleton that reflected the chamber's lights. 6 legs supported its massive frame, and its compound eyes looked at Minho with what humans had learned to recognize as contempt. Ambassador Park, your petition is noted. As it has been noted the previous 17 times you have presented it,
Oh, right.
Veltharn's voice came through translation speakers, turning its clicking sounds into common language. The answer remains unchanged. Humanity is too young, too volatile. Your species has been part of the galactic community for less than one of your centuries. Other species have served for thousands of your years before receiving full rights. But they were not asked to do what we have done, Minho said, trying to keep his voice level. They were not placed in the most dangerous positions immediately upon joining. Because they could not handle such positions, Veltharn replied. Humanity's unique biology allows you to survive in conditions fatal to most species. Your rapid adaptation and problem-solving abilities make you ideal for challenging work. You should be grateful for the privilege of serving the Council in such important roles. Several delegates made sounds of agreement. Minho looked around the chamber. He saw the Draxian military commanders nodding their scaled heads. He saw the Eutherian Trade Federation representatives displaying positive colors on their skin. He saw the small and the large, the ancient and the relatively young, all agreeing that humans should be grateful. Grateful to die in places no one else wanted to go. Captain Jiho touched his communication device. A message appeared on his visual display. It was from Earth Command. Just 3 words. Execute Protocol Exodus. Jiho felt his heart rate increase. Protocol Exodus was something Earth had prepared in secret for 5 years. A plan that assumed this exact moment would come. A plan that Jiho had hoped they would never need to use. He sent quick coded messages to the 15 other human captains currently in Council space. Each one commanded either a ship, or a station, or a facility. Each one had received the same preparation. In the chamber, Minho was still speaking. We do not ask for special treatment. We ask for equal treatment. We ask for recognition of our sacrifices. We ask for a voice in decisions that affect our people. Your people are free to leave the council at any time, Veltharn said. And several delegates made sounds that translators interpreted as laughter, but you will not. Because without us, humanity would still be trapped in your single star system. You need us far more than we need you. Minho stood silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Thank you for clarifying your position, Arbiter. Humanity will consider your words carefully. He turned and walked back to the human section. His face showed no emotion, but Hannah saw his hands were shaking slightly. The council meeting continued with other business. Trade agreements between the Feltorian Empire and the Quellan Consortium. Dispute resolution between mining companies on the Outer Rim. Standard political matters that Hannah had watched for years. The meeting ended 3 hours later. The delegates filed out to their ships and quarters. The human delegation returned to the Eternal Dawn. Their ship docked at the council station. Once aboard, Minho gathered everyone in the conference room. He looked tired, older than his years. Earth Command has given the order, he said quietly. We leave tonight. All human vessels, all stations, all personnel. We go home, just like that? Asked one of the junior diplomats. We just leave? Without a word, Jiho confirmed. Protocol Exodus is very specific. We take everything we can carry. We leave behind nothing of value. And we do not explain. We do not warn them. We simply go. Across Council space, 72 human ships received their orders. 314 human stations began evacuation procedures. 47,000 human workers in mines and medical facilities and engineering posts started packing. They moved quickly and quietly, trained for this possibility. Within 72 hours, every human presence in council territory had vanished. When the council delegates returned to the chamber, 5 days later for their next session, they found the human section empty. The ships were gone. The stations were abandoned. Every human communication channel was silent. Humanity had left without saying goodbye, and the council had no idea what was coming. 2 weeks had passed since the humans disappeared. Director Unicho stared at her display screens in the Council Infrastructure Management Center, and none of what she saw made sense. Una was a Velshron, a species known for their organizational skills and attention to detail. She had managed council infrastructure for 12 years without a single major incident. Now, in just 14 days, her perfect record was falling apart. The first report had seemed minor. A mining facility on Velshar 7 had gone offline. These things happen sometimes. Equipment failed. Power systems needed repairs. Workers needed rest cycles. Una had sent the standard request for status updates. No response came. She sent emergency override commands. Still nothing. She dispatched a repair ship. When the ship arrived at Velshar 7 3 days later, the crew found the entire complex shut down. The massive quantum drills sat silent. The processing plants were in standby mode. The residential sections were empty. And according to the logs, humans had operated every single critical system. Una had not worried too much at first. One facility out of thousands was manageable. But then the second report arrived. Then the third. Then dozens more. The pattern was always the same. Facilities operated primarily by humans were going dark one by one. Not violently. Not dramatically. They simply stopped working. The navigation beacon network through the Maelstrom expanse failed on day 16. The Maelstrom was a region of unstable space, full of gravitational anomalies and spatial distortions that made normal navigation impossible. Ships could only travel through it safely by following a network of quantum beacons that created stable pathways. Human engineers had built and maintained those beacons for 60 years. Now every single beacon was offline. Councillor Drexen of the Draxian Empire had 500 cargo ships, caught on the wrong side of the Maelstrom when the beacons failed. The ships carried food, medical supplies, and industrial equipment needed by 73 colony worlds. They could not cross the maelstrom without the beacons, and going around would take 4 months instead of 3 days. Drexen contacted Una personally, his scaled face showing the anger his species was famous for. "Get those beacons back online immediately," he demanded through the communication screen. "My people are depending on those supplies." "We are trying," Una replied, fighting to keep her voice steady. "But the beacon systems are more complex than we realized." The humans did not leave detailed maintenance records. Every time our engineers think they understand the system, they discover another layer of security protocols. "Why would navigation beacons need security?" "Not security to keep people out," Una explained. "Safety protocols. The beacons operate in extremely dangerous space. The humans built in multiple emergency systems to prevent accidents. But only human engineers knew how to work with those systems active." Drexen made a growling sound. "So we are helpless because we relied on humans to do the difficult work and never bothered to learn how they did it." Una said nothing. There was nothing to say because Drexen was right. The medical crisis began on day 20. 3 colony worlds reported outbreaks of Keltharian fever, a disease that affected multiple species but was particularly deadly to the Etherians. Before humans joined the Council, Keltharian fever outbreaks killed millions. Human doctors had developed treatment protocols that reduced deaths by 98%. But those protocols required human medical staff because the treatments involved precise dosing of substances that were harmless to humans but toxic to most other species. Only human doctors had the steady hands and quick reflexes needed to administer the treatments safely. The 3 infected colonies had 37 million people. Without treatment, projections showed 800,000 would die within 2 months. Council medical authorities sent their best doctors, but within days those doctors reported they could not perform the treatments effectively. The dosages were too precise, the timing too critical, the risk of error too high. Una watched the reports multiply. Infrastructure failures, navigation breakdowns, medical emergencies, economic collapse in sectors that depended on resources from no offline mining operations. And everywhere she looked, she saw the same truth. Humans had not just worked in dangerous places. They had become the foundation that held Council's civilization together. On day 23, Una decided to dig deeper. She accessed the central database and ran a comprehensive analysis. She wanted to know exactly how much the Council depended on human labor. The results took 6 hours to compile. When they appeared on her screen, Una felt something close to fear. Humans had operated 78% of Level 5 hazard facilities. They maintained 62% of unstable space navigation systems. They staffed 91% of exotic disease treatment centers. They designed and built 43% of all quantum communication networks. They ran the life support systems on 147, called A stations, where the local atmosphere was toxic to most species. But the most disturbing finding was hidden in the infrastructure code itself. Una brought in her best systems analyst, a Quellan named Rixter, who could read program code like others read simple text. She had him examine the core systems that ran everything from power grids to waste, recycling. Rixter worked for 2 days straight. When he finally called Una to his workstation, his skin showed colors that indicated confusion and respect. "Look at this," he said, displaying lines of code on the screen. "This is the primary power distribution network for the Council's central station. See these sections marked in blue? That is human code. They wrote approximately 40% of the core systems. So we need to hire new programmers to maintain it," Una said. "It is not that simple." Rixter changed the display. "Human code is efficient but complex. They think differently than most species. They consider possibilities we do not. But more importantly, look here." He pointed to specific segments. "These are emergency shutdown protocols. If the system detects certain dangerous conditions, it automatically enters safe mode, which means it stops working until a qualified operator can verify everything is safe to restart. And qualified operator means human? In this case, yes. The protocols require authorization codes that only humans possessed. and they require someone who understands the specific logic patterns humans used when writing the code. Yuna rubbed her face with her hands. So the systems are not broken. They are protecting themselves. And we cannot convince them we are safe to operate them. Correct. Somewhere in deep space, far from Council territory, Engineer Taiyang sat in a hidden monitoring station. It was a small facility, barely large enough for one person, hidden in an asteroid field that Council ships never patrolled. Taiyang was 31 years old, and he had volunteered to stay behind when the other humans left. His job was simple. Watch what happened. Record everything. Report to Earth. He had screens showing data feeds from across Council space. He watched infrastructure fail. He watched emergency reports multiply. He watched the Council scramble to solve problems they had never had to think about before. And he watched them realize, slowly and painfully, exactly what humans had been doing for 83 years. Taiyang recorded it all. Every failure, every crisis, every desperate attempt to fix systems the Council did not fully understand. He compiled the data into detailed reports and sent them to Earth through hidden communication channels. Earth Command needed to know everything. They needed to understand the leverage humanity now possessed. On day 28, the first Council economy crashed. The Tellurian Trade Federation, which depended heavily on resources from now offline mining operations, announced it could not meet its financial obligations. 3 other trading groups collapsed within days. Banks started failing. Supply chains broke down. Panic spread through the financial sectors. Tae watched it happen in real time. He felt no joy in seeing others suffer. But he felt no guilt either. The Council had made their choice. They had treated humans as useful tools, never considering what would happen if those tools simply went away. Now they were learning the cost of their arrogance. He composed a short message to Earth Command. Just 7 words. They are starting to understand their mistake. He encrypted it using quantum protocols that no other species could break and sent it through the hidden network. Somewhere on Earth, Admiral Soman Kong would receive it and smile. The Council was beginning to understand, but they had not yet realized the full truth. The worst was still to come. 3 months after humanity's departure, the Council chamber looked very different. Half the seats were empty. Representatives who used to arrive in expensive ships now came in borrowed vessels or did not come at all. The polished crystal floor had lost its shine because the cleaning systems, designed and maintained by human engineers, no longer worked properly. The grand display screens flickered occasionally, their quantum processors struggling without the regular maintenance humans had provided. Arbiter Veltharn stood at the central podium, trying to maintain dignity while delivering the worst status report in Council history. The insectoid leader's exoskeleton had dulled, stress affecting even its crystalline structure. Behind Veltharn, emergency holograms displayed the cascade of failures spreading across Council space. 17 colony worlds have declared independence, Veltharn announced, its voice lacking the usual commanding tone. They cite our inability to provide basic services as justification for breaking their Council charters. We cannot legally challenge them because they are correct. We cannot provide basic services. Counselor Drexen stood up, his large frame radiating anger. How did we not see this coming? How did an entire civilization become dependent on a single species without anyone noticing? Because they did the jobs no one wanted, Yuna Cho said quietly from her seat in the administrative section. They worked in places we considered too dangerous or too unpleasant. We were happy to let them. We never stopped to think about what would happen if they left. In a conference room deep beneath the Surface Command Center, Admiral Soman Kong studied the reports from Taiyang's monitoring station. Salman was 58 years old, a veteran of Earth's defense forces, and the current commander of all human military operations. Around her sat the other members of Earth's Leadership Council: politicians, scientists, military officers, and civilian representatives. They were making decisions that would affect humanity's future for generations. The Council is collapsing faster than we projected, said scientist Daeon Choi. He was 42. Brilliant, and had predicted this exact scenario 5 years ago when humanity first began planning Protocol Exodus. Our models suggested they would maintain stability for at least 6 months. They are falling apart in 3, because we underestimated how much they depended on us, Salman replied. She pulled up casualty figures on the central display. 7 million dead so far, most from disease outbreaks they cannot control. Another 3 million at risk from life support failures on stations we used to maintain. Is it enough? Asked one of the civilian representatives, a woman named Haiwan, who represented Earth's eastern territories. Have they suffered enough to accept our terms? Salman looked at her coldly. This is not about revenge. This is about ensuring humanity never gets exploited again. We are not counting their suffering. We are measuring their willingness to change. Ambassador Minho Park spoke from his position near the window. He had returned to Earth when Protocol Exodus began, and now he served as an advisor to the Leadership Council. They will reach out soon. They have to. Their pride held them back for the first month. Their shock carried them through the second month. But now they see the full scope of the crisis. They will contact us within the week. He was right. 4 days later, a quantum communication signal reached Earth on emergency channels. It was from Arbiter Veltharn personally. The message was simple. We need to talk. Name your terms. The Leadership Council debated for 18 hours before responding. Some wanted to demand immediate reparations. Others wanted territory, ships, technology. But Soman and Minho advocated for something different. Not demands made in anger, but terms designed to create lasting change. They sent their response. Not an agreement to negotiate. Not a list of demands. Instead, they sent a complete data package. Every payment record from 83 years of human service to the Council, every casualty report, every rejected petition for fair treatment, every instance of dismissal and mockery and exploitation, the raw data, unedited and undeniable. The package included video recordings of council sessions where human suffering was treated as acceptable cost, audio files of council members joking about human deaths in dangerous work zones, financial analyses showing that humans were paid 70% less than other species for the same work, medical records of human workers who died from exposure to conditions the council knew were harmful but allowed anyway because humans could survive longer than others. The data package ended with a simple text message. You asked what we want? First, understand what you took. The package spread through council networks within hours. Some representatives tried to suppress it, but others released it publicly. Council citizens, beings from hundreds of different species, saw for the first time exactly how humans had been treated. The response was mixed. Some felt humans were exaggerating. Others felt genuine shame. But everyone understood that the crisis was real and getting worse. 2 weeks later, another message arrived at Earth, this time from Councillor Drexen, not Veltharn. The Arbiter no longer speaks for the Council. A reform faction has taken control. We acknowledge the wrongs done to humanity. We are prepared to discuss fair terms. Please respond. Admiral Soman read the message 3 times before calling the Leadership Council together. They are serious, she said. But we cannot simply negotiate over quantum channels. We need to go there. We need to show them we are not afraid and we are not weak. You want to send ships? Haiwan asked. That could be seen as a threat, Good Soman replied. It should be. They prepared a fleet. Not a war fleet with weapons armed and shields up, but not a diplomatic vessel either. Something in between. 15 ships, including the Eternal Dawn, commanded by Captain Jiho Kim. Each ship carried diplomats and engineers and medical staff, and each ship was equipped with defensive systems far more advanced than anything the Council possessed. Because during the 3 months humanity had been away from the Council, they had not been idle. Free from Council regulations and restrictions, human engineers had made rapid advances. New shield technology, faster engines, weapon systems that used principles the Council did not fully understand. Humanity had been holding back for 83 years, working within Council limits. Now those limits were gone. Mediator Ji Suhan led the diplomatic team. She was 39 years old, sharp and direct in her communication style. And she had spent 10 years working in council space before the Exodus. She understood alien psychology better than most humans. Solomon had chosen her specifically because Jisoo would not be intimidated, would not accept less than humanity deserved. The fleet departed Earth and traveled toward council space. They did not hide their approach. They broadcast their identity and trajectory openly. They wanted the council to see them coming, wanted them to wonder what humanity had become in 3 months of freedom. When the fleet entered council space, Unicho tracked them on her sensors. She saw their ships moving in perfect formation, their quantum drives running at efficiency levels that should not be possible. She ran analysis on their hulls and discovered materials that registered as unknown in the council database. She measured their shield strength and found it was 3 times more powerful than standard council. Military shields. She sent a report to Counselor Drexen. The humans have advanced significantly. Whatever restrictions we placed on them before, those restrictions are gone now. They are showing us what they can do when we do not hold them back. Drexen read the report and felt something he had rarely experienced. Respect mixed with fear. Humanity had not just left, they had leveled up. And now they were returning, not as humble petitioners, but as equals who knew their worth. The human fleet stopped at the edge of council territory and sent a message. We are prepared to discuss terms. Send your representatives to the Eternal Dawn. We will meet as equals, or we will not meet at all. Inside the council chamber, Veltharn tried one last time to assert authority. We cannot let them dictate terms. We are the Galactic Council. We do not bow to threats. Drex stood and looked directly at the Arbiter. You are no longer in charge. And these are not threats. These are consequences. We created this situation. Now we will fix it. Step aside. The vote was quick. Veltharn was removed from power. Counselor Drexen assumed temporary leadership of a reformed government. And within hours, a council delegation was traveling toward the Eternal Dawn to face humanity's terms. The conference room aboard the Eternal Dawn was deliberately simple. Plain metal walls, standard gravity, normal atmospheric composition, no special accommodations for the council delegation. If they wanted to meet humanity, they would do it on human terms in a human environment. The message was clear without being spoken. Mediator Jisoo Han sat at one end of a long table. Behind her stood Captain Jiho Kim and Admiral Soman Kong, who had joined the fleet personally for this meeting. Across from them sat Counselor Drexen and 5 other council representatives. Director Unicho was there, along with delegates from the Quellan Consortium, the Etherian Federation, and 2 smaller species. Notably absent was anyone from Veltharn's faction. Jisoo opened a display pad and activated a holographic screen above the table. We appreciate you coming to meet with us, she said in perfect galactic common language. Her tone was polite, but cold. Let me be clear about something before we begin. This is not a negotiation. You do not have leverage. Your economy is collapsing. Your infrastructure is failing. Your people are dying. We are here to tell you what will happen next. You can accept or refuse. Those are your options. Drexen's scales rippled with what humans had learned to recognize as irritation mixed with resignation. We understand our position. We are here to listen. Jisoo brought up the first item on her display. Full voting rights with veto power. Humanity will have 3 seats on the Council Leadership Board. We will have equal say in all major decisions affecting Council, policy, trade, and military action. This is non-negotiable. 3 seats? One of the Quellan delegates spoke up. The Draxian Empire only has 2 seats, and we have been council members for 4,000 years. Then perhaps you should have left when you were being exploited, Jisoo replied without emotion. We did. That is why we have leverage, and you do not. Unicho spoke carefully. This will create resentment among older council members. They will feel humans are receiving unearned status. They can feel however they want, Admiral Soman said from her position behind Jisoo. Their feelings are not our concern. Their actions are. For 83 years, they used our people as disposable labor. For 83 years, they ignored our petitions and mocked our requests for fair treatment. Now they will accept that humanity deserves a voice, or they will continue collapsing without us. Jisoo moved to the second point. Reparations. The Council will pay humanity 800 billion credits over the next 20 years. This represents the difference between what we were paid and what other species received for equivalent work, plus compensation for lives lost due to Council negligence. 800 billion. Drexen's voice rose. The Council Treasury does not have those resources. We are already in economic crisis. Then you will rebuild your economy, Jisoo said. We are not asking if you can afford it. We are telling you what you owe. You will find a way to pay it, or you will find yourselves without the engineers and doctors and navigators you need to recover from this crisis. The Etherian delegate, a being whose skin currently showed colors of distress, spoke in a quiet voice. You are essentially holding us hostage. Help us, or we die. Captain Jiho stepped forward. You held us hostage for 83 years. Work for us or remain trapped in your home system. Accept our terms or receive no protection. Die in dangerous conditions or watch your families starve. The only difference is we are being honest about it. Jisoo continued to the third point. Territory. Humanity will claim 50 star systems of our choosing from former Council space. These systems will become independent human territory, not subject to Council law or taxation. We will choose systems that are currently uninhabited or have minimal populations who can relocate with compensation. 50 systems? Unicho looked genuinely shocked. That is more territory than some species possess after thousands of years of membership. Then those species should have contributed more, Jisoo said. She brought up a star map showing the systems humanity had selected. These systems are mostly resource-rich but difficult to access. Asteroid fields, unstable stars, harsh planetary conditions, exactly the kind of places you always sent us anyway. Now they will be ours officially. The fourth point appeared on the display. Labor law reform. The Council will implement new regulations protecting all workers, not just humans. No species will be assigned to hazardous conditions without proper compensation, safety equipment, and rotation schedules. No species will be paid less than others for equivalent work. All member species will have the right to refuse dangerous assignments without penalty. Drexen studied the detailed proposal. This is actually reasonable. These protections should have existed all along. Yes, they should have, Jisoo agreed. But they did not because the Council benefited from exploitation. That ends now. These laws will be enforced by an independent oversight committee with representatives from multiple species, including 3 human seats. More human control, the Quellan delegate muttered. More human protection, Jisoo corrected. We are not doing this just for ourselves. We are creating a system that protects everyone. Because if we do not, the Council will simply find another species to exploit once we are established. The fifth and final point appeared. Public acknowledgement. The Council will issue a formal statement taking responsibility for the exploitation of humanity. This statement will be broadcast across all Council communication networks and entered into official historical records. You will acknowledge what you did wrong and commit to never repeating those mistakes. This point seemed to trouble the Council delegates more than the others. Unicho spoke hesitantly. A public acknowledgement will be humiliating for the Council. It will damage our reputation and authority. Your reputation is already damaged, Admiral Soman said. Everyone knows you let your infrastructure collapse because you depended too heavily on a single species you treated poorly. A public acknowledgement shows you are taking responsibility. It makes you look like you are trying to fix your mistakes rather than hiding them.
Nice.
Close the display. Those are our terms. You have 48 hours to accept them formally. If you refuse, we return to Earth and you continue dealing with your crisis alone. We have already begun discussions with 3 other species who were treated similarly to how we were treated. They are considering leaving the Council as well. If they do, you will lose even more of your foundation. Drexen looked at the other delegates. They had a silent conversation through gesture and expression that humans could not fully interpret. Finally, Drexen spoke. We need time to bring this before the full council. Some members will resist. Then you remove those members, Captain Jiho said. Like you removed Veltharn. This is not difficult. You either accept that times have changed or you become irrelevant. There is something you should understand, Unicho said, leaning forward. Not all of us treated humans poorly. Some of us tried to support your petitions. Some of us argued for fair treatment. And yet humans continued to die in dangerous conditions, Jisoo replied. Your good intentions did not change our reality. Now, we are changing the reality ourselves. The meeting ended shortly after. The council delegation returned to their ships to discuss humanity's terms. Inside the Eternal Dawn's conference room, the human delegation relaxed slightly. Admiral Soman poured water for herself and the others. Do you think they will accept? Jiho asked. They have no choice, Jisoo replied. They know it. We know it. This meeting was about letting them feel like they had some input in the process. But the outcome was decided the moment we left 3 months ago. Oh, some of them will resist anyway, Salman said. Pride is a powerful force. Some would rather see the council destroyed than admit humans were treated unfairly. Then the council will be destroyed, Jisoo said simply, and we will build something better from the pieces. Either way, humanity wins. The 48 hours passed slowly. On Earth, billions of people watched news reports about the meeting. In council space, citizens from hundreds of species debated what would happen next. Some supported the human terms. Others called it blackmail. But everyone waited to see what the council would decide. When the response came, it was not from Councillor Drexen. It was from the full council assembly, speaking with one voice for the first time in months. They had taken a vote. 209 species in favor. 38 against. The council accepted humanity's terms in full. There would be no more negotiation. No attempts to reduce the reparations or limit the voting rights. They accepted everything. Because they had finally learned what humanity had been trying to tell them for 83 years. Respect is not granted. It is earned through recognition of mutual worth. And sometimes, you have to walk away to teach that lesson. 2 years had passed since humanity returned to the council. The chamber looked different now. Cleaner, brighter, more organized. But the real changes were not visible in the architecture. They were visible in how people interacted, in the laws that governed commerce and labor, in the power dynamics that shaped decisions. Chancellor Jinho Shin sat in one of the 3 human seats on the leadership council. At 45 years old, he was the youngest chancellor in council history. His appointment had been controversial at first, but over 2 years he had earned respect through competence and fairness. He did not lead with threats or anger. He led by example and by holding everyone, including humans, to the same high standards. The financial report shows economic recovery exceeding projections. Junho announced to the assembled delegates, 73% of previously failing sectors have returned to stability. Unemployment across council space has dropped by 40%. Trade routes are functioning efficiently again. Director Unicho, still managing infrastructure, but now with a much larger and more diverse team, added her analysis. The new maintenance protocols are working. We have trained personnel from 37 different species to handle systems that previously only humans managed. Response time to infrastructure issues has improved by 60%. Because you are not waiting for a single species to fix everything, Captain Jiho Kim said from his position as Chief of Council's Security Operations. When problems arise, qualified people respond, regardless of their species, the way it should have been from the beginning. The council chamber now had representatives from species that had never been heard before. 3 smaller civilizations that had been exploited similarly to humans had joined after the reforms. The Telkari, who had been forced into hazardous waste disposal work, the Namari, who had operated dangerous mining equipment, and the Kesh, who had served as expendable scouts in unknown territory. All 3 now had voting seats and equal rights. Ambassador Minho Park sat in the diplomatic section, officially retired but still attending sessions as an advisor. At 55, he looked more relaxed than he had in years. The weight of constant petition and rejection was gone. He watched Junho lead the session with pride. This was what he had fought for, even when it seemed impossible. Dr. Hannah Lee ran the Collaborative Xenoscience Institute, from a station in neutral space between Council territory and human systems. The institute brought together researchers from dozens of species to work on projects that benefited everyone. Medical advances, environmental solutions, technological innovations. The work she had always wanted to do, finally free from the political restrictions that had limited her before. "We have a proposal from the medical division," Hannah's voice came through the communication system. She was attending the session remotely while supervising an experiment. The new Keltharian fever treatment protocol can be performed safely by practitioners from 7 different species, not just humans. We have completed training programs and safety certifications. Estimated lives saved per year increases from 90,000 to over 300,000. "Excellent work," Junho said. "Approved. Implement across all medical facilities." This was how the council worked now: efficient, collaborative, fair. Problems were solved by whoever was best qualified, not by whoever could be forced to do the work. It seemed simple, but it had taken a near-total collapse to make the council understand this basic principle. Engineer. Tayango finally revealed himself after 2 years of hiding. He returned to council space and shared all the data he had collected during the crisis. His detailed records became the foundation for new infrastructure management protocols. Now, he worked openly as chief systems analyst, helping train others to maintain the complex networks that kept civilization running. He was 33 now, and people from multiple species came to him for guidance. "You were alone for 3 months, a young Quellan engineer said to him one day during a training session. "Watching everything fall apart? Did you feel guilty?" "No," Taiyang replied honestly. "I felt sad that it was necessary, but not guilty." The council made their choices. They chose to exploit humans and ignore warnings. Natural consequences followed. We did not cause their suffering. We simply stopped preventing it. The reparations were being paid on schedule. 800 billion credits over 20 years. The council had restructured their economy to accommodate the payments, and surprisingly, the economy had grown stronger. Turns out that when you pay workers fairly and treat them with respect, they are more productive and innovative. The council was learning this lesson slowly but surely. The 50-star systems humanity claimed were developing rapidly. Humans had chosen wisely. Resource-rich systems that were difficult to access, but perfect for a species that thrived in challenging conditions. Within 2 years, these systems had populations of 8 million humans and growing. Cities were being built on planets with harsh weather. Mining operations extracted rare minerals from unstable asteroid fields. Research stations studied phenomena that most species considered too dangerous to approach. "We are not just surviving in these systems," Admiral Suman told the council during a trade discussion. "We are thriving. And we are willing to share the resources we extract at fair market prices. Everyone benefits when everyone is treated fairly." The labor protection laws had transformed council society. For the first time, workers from all species had genuine rights. Safety equipment was mandatory. Rotation schedules prevented burnout. Compensation was standardized regardless of species. The Independent Oversight Committee, led jointly by humans Telkari and a Draxian reformist, enforced the laws strictly. Companies that violated worker rights faced severe penalties. Not everyone was happy with the changes. Some of the older established powers resented human influence. Some species that had benefited from the old exploitative system were struggling to adapt. There were protests, complaints, attempts to return to the old ways. But the reforms held firm because they were supported by the majority, who had suffered under the old system. Former Arbiter Veltharn was living in exile on a remote colony, stripped of titles and power. The insectoid leader had refused to accept the new order and had been removed permanently. Occasionally, Veltharn would send messages to council members, warning that humanity was becoming too powerful, that the reforms were destroying traditional council values. Most ignored these messages. The traditional values Veltharn mourned were the same values that had led to exploitation and collapse. Councillor Drexen, who had led the reform faction, worked closely with the human delegation now. The Draxian had earned respect from humans by acknowledging past wrongs and working to fix them. "My people were part of the problem," he told Junho during a private conversation. "We benefited from human labor without questioning if it was right. I cannot change the past, but I can help build a better future." "That is all any of us can do," Junho replied. "The Council cannot undo 83 years of exploitation, but it can ensure those years are never repeated." On Earth, humanity was experiencing a renaissance. Free from Council restrictions, human technology and culture flourished. Artists created works that blended human and alien influences. Scientists made breakthroughs previously impossible under Council regulations. Engineers designed ships and systems that pushed the boundaries of what was thought possible. Earth's population had grown to 12 billion, and humanity was expanding into new systems beyond their claimed territory. But humans had not forgotten the lessons learned. They remained active in Council affairs, not to dominate, but to ensure fair treatment continued. They helped other species who were struggling. They shared technology and knowledge freely. They demonstrated that power did not require cruelty. Strength did not require exploitation. The public acknowledgement Council issued was now part of every student's education. Young beings from hundreds of species learned about the exploitation era as a warning. This is what happens when you devalue others. This is the cost of treating people as disposable. This is why respect and fairness are not just moral choices, but practical necessities. Chancellor Junho stood in the chamber at the end of a long session. Around him, delegates from hundreds of species were leaving, talking among themselves about the day's business. He watched them go and felt a sense of accomplishment mixed with caution. The Council was better now, but it could always slip back. Vigilance was required. Captain Jiho approached him as the chamber emptied. "Long day," Jiho said. "Every day is long," Junho replied with a slight smile. "But they are good days. We are building something that lasts." "Do you think the Council learned its lesson? Really learned it?" Junho considered the question carefully. "Some learned, some are still learning, and some never will. But the structures we put in place will outlast individual attitudes. The laws protect everyone now. The oversight committees have real power. The younger generations are growing up in a fairer system. That is what matters. And if they forget again, if future councils decide to go back to the old ways," Junho looked at Jiho with a steady gaze, "then we will remind them. But this time, we will not need to leave quietly. We have established our worth."